The three films that we have chosen for this series are Faithless, Genocide, and Defiance. We have carefully thought even about the chronology of the films, and the reason we're presenting them in this order is because Faithless, which tells the story of a Nobel Prize writer Imre Kertész, could illustrate the fact that the Holocaust came to the Jewry of Hungary, especially of Budapest, literally out of the blue, and literally at the time when the Germans were already losing the war in 1944. And yet, very diligently, the Nazi officials, with Adolf Eichmann leading them, have arranged the transport and ultimate destruction of almost the entire Jewish population of Hungary, 400,000 people. Imre Kertész, who was a child, a teenager at the time, experienced this horror, having been picked up from the streets of Budapest and taken to two concentration camps. We, in this film, then see basically the shock that the Jewish population had been put through, having first of all been isolated in the ghetto and then taken and transported to the death camps. The second film is a documentary, actually an Academy Awarded documentary from 1982, Genocide, narrated by Orson Welles and Elizabeth Taylor, with very, very important documentary archive films that are put together that show the thriving Jewish communities, especially in Poland before the Holocaust, and the destruction that was visited on them. The imagery, of course, is very upsetting, but it's very important that we should acquaint ourselves with this history, especially in the view of what is happening these days with refugees that are sometimes not helped as they should be on the borders of perhaps many of the states that are described from 70 years ago. The last film is Defiance, which is a story of redemption, the story of the Bielski brothers who have run away from the German-occupied villages of where they lived in Belarus and took refuge in the woods and the marshes where the Germans couldn't pursue them. These three brothers, the Bielski brothers, that are described also in this film, have taken upon themselves not only to fight as partisans against German garrisons where they had the opportunity, or sabotage railways, or the usual partisan armed activity, but they have also saved a lot of Jews, a lot of refugees. They took them with them in the woods. And actually, survivors who tell the story, they speak of that place as Jerusalem in the woods. In other words, the place of refuge, the place of sanctuary. The Bielski brothers were the only ones who accepted even children and older people, which usually would be a drain on the partisans who didn't have the logistical support to keep people fed and clothed and sheltered under these conditions. And in this case, I have, of course, a personal connection to this story because my cousin, Abraham Rosenzweig, was, as a child of 7, he was saved by the Bielski brothers. His 2 brothers and parents were slaughtered by the Nazis as they were running away, and a neighbor took Abraham and his cart, and they reached the woods, and he was literally saved by these people. The reason I'm mentioning a personal connection is because Holocaust denial is so widespread among people who still perpetuate anti-Semitic feelings towards the Jews. One of their ways is to deny the Holocaust. And I think it is now up to people of my generation, since the survivors themselves are getting old and fading away, perhaps it is our duty now to bear witness and make sure that people know that these things have indeed happened. They're not just stories.